I'd like to introduce our first speaker who's going to be talking on the topic of empowerment. Dr. Joe Vitale. Pardon me.
Yes, I am here.
Hello, how are you, sir?
I am great.
Thank you for joining us.
Of
Yay!
course, of course. Thanks for the invitation.
So, we're speaking on the topic of empowerment. And there are things that block us in life. Could you take us through the subconscious mind and what goes on in that space that we're not even aware of that can trip us up in life?
Well, you want to start at the deep end, huh?
I jump into the deep end, my friend.
Good for you. All
Isn't
right.
that the only way to do it? Like, just
That's
go there.
that's what I prefer. That's what I prefer. Well, the subconscious mind is the one driving the bus. Most of us don't realize that because we think that we're in charge, and consciously what we think is what becomes. That's not the case. That's one of the reasons why movies like The Secret misled a lot of people, and one reason why a lot of the self-help literature doesn't fully help people. There's a superficial understanding out there that says your conscious mind's in control, and it is not. The subconscious mind is in control. The subconscious mind is the large database. Some people refer to it as the iceberg that's below the ocean. You have the tip of the iceberg, which is the conscious mind thinking it knows where it's going and it's going to lead us there. And then we have the subconscious mind, which is a collection of beliefs, mindsets, paradigms, and more, most of which you had nothing to do with in choosing and everything to do with in accepting. And depending on your philosophy and background, those beliefs that are in the subconscious mind can come from ancestors. They can come from not only your parents, but the DNA from the beginning of time, downloaded through the lineage of human experience. And then you arrive as a baby when you're born, thinking, well, you're a blank slate. You're not. You're not. You already have some pre-wiring going on in your subconscious. And then you start downloading information from most likely your parents, which are the first influencers. And I often tell people, were your parents Mr. and Mrs. Buddha? Were they enlightened? And virtually everybody laughs and goes, no, not even close. So your parents downloaded their limitations, their programming, their belief system to you, and they never did it intentionally. They didn't even know they had it. So we arrive at this point in time and we look around and we go, wow, I have these big goals. I want to open a business. I want to heal myself. I want to be in a relationship. I want more money. I want my dreams to come true. And we wonder, how come it's not coming about? Well, it's the conscious mind setting out orders and the subconscious mind usually vetoing them because of the limiting beliefs within it. So, for me, to sum all of this up, all of the work for transformation is an inside job that takes place on the subconscious mind level. We don't work there. Our change can still happen, but by very tiny, frustrating baby steps. We got to do the inner work, and that's what I call the missing secret to success. It's not what you're doing on the conscious mind. You can begin there, but you got to go into the deep dive, which is why I love your question so much. We dived into the deep end of the pool right off the bat.
So, okay, I tend to cannonball into the deep end of the pool. For the people that are just now setting their vision and their goal for 2021, can you take them to the front end?
Yes, we can go to the front end of the
Thank
pool.
you.
Yes, no, I love it. Steer me through this. This is great. Um, Being aware of the deep end is a wonderful place to start because you get a sense of where you have to go. And how do you get there? Is you go back to the shallow end of the pool, and the shallow end of the pool is where you work with your conscious mind. The conscious mind is what you're all using right now. You're all judging me, what I'm saying, the questions, what you wish were asked, what you wish were answered. How does this fit with your existing beliefs? All of that's going on in your conscious mind right now. If I say things that are agreeable to you, you'll nod your head and go, "Oh, I like that guy. That Dr. Joe, he's pretty cool." If I say things that perplex you or confuse you or you disagree with, you're going to go, "Man, who's the next speaker? When's he coming along?" Or she. And that's all because the conscious mind is butting heads with the subconscious beliefs. So, working with the conscious mind, I still am a big believer in intentions. Intentions aim the ship, intentions give a map for the bus, intentions start the ignition for where we want to go and what we want to have. So, to go into the shallow end of the pool, I simply say, "What do you want? What do you want to have, do, or be in 2021?" We're only days into this year, and on the second day, I made a video for my Instagram followers, and it was somewhat humorous, but I was making a point. And I said, so far, 2021, this is on the second day of the year, is the greatest year of all time. Everything is working fantastic. We're in the flow, we're in the know. This is an amazing year. This really knocks to the curb all of the other years ever before. And of course, I'm joking, it was only day two. And at the same time, I was pointing to the fact that you have control. You have control of where you want 2021, at least your experience of 2021, to go. So I like setting intentions. Intentions are working with the conscious mind, but it is a way to engage and aim where we want to go. And it's a way to take our power. Too many of us are victims. We are bouncing off circumstances because we don't know any better, or we haven't been trained, or we simply don't have the idea, the belief that it can be different. And so I come from, what do you want to have, do, or be? It starts there. And when you declare that intention, you activate your body and mind to go in the direction of that intention. Now, when you stay with this, that activation will bring up the limiting beliefs in the subconscious mind, which is then our opportunity to clear them. For most people, when they declare an intention, they start moving in the direction of the intention, and then the beliefs surface from the subconscious mind, which they don't even know that's happening, but the excuses show up, the rationalizations show up. And when they do, most people stop. They just give up. They're not going to keep going. What I am inviting everybody here to do, and what I'm doing through my own work, is to advise people is, as those beliefs show up, as those excuses show up, let's stop and clear them. The other insight I've had from my work is the faster we clear those blocks, the faster we accelerate down the road to have, do, or be whatever it is that we want. One of my recent examples is when I turned 60 years old, which was now 7 years ago, I decided that it was on my bucket list to be a musician. So I just made a declaration. I'm going to be a musician. I'm going to write songs, learn how to sing, learn how to play the guitar, learn how to go in the studio, put a band together, make an album. There's my big, bold intention. Very first thing that happened was terror, outright terror. And this is me with all of what I've written and all that I've done, facing the stark reality that whenever you state an intention for what you want to do, you're going to bring up the counter intentions, the beliefs, the negativity, the limits, that baggage in the subconscious mind. I did too. At that point, I could have said, well, the hell with being a musician. Who cares? Nobody's going to notice anyway if I don't follow that dream. But I knew that was an excuse. I knew I had a dream and I had the tools. So I went through and knocked down the beliefs that were in the subconscious mind. And now, 7 years later, I have recorded 15 albums. My band is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I've been written about in Rolling Stone magazine. A couple of my songs were nominated for the Posy Award, which is the Grammys of Positive Music. I'm not saying any of this to brag. I'm saying this to say I'm human just like everybody else. And when I declared an intention, it brought up all the fears around it. Had I been a different person at a different point in time, I could have just said, well, forget the dream. But instead, I said, no, I want the dream. Let me clean up the subconscious mind. As I cleaned up the subconscious beliefs, I was able to accelerate down the road And I've recorded more albums than some of my band members who, again, are famous for what they have done. So there you go. More to think about.
Tasha, I know you have a question. Would you like to ask it now?
Yes, I do have a question. I have two, but I'll just ask one for now. So you were speaking about something that I think is incredibly important. Many people don't know that my journey into all of this started last year with a major shift in my career, which is something that I was working on to change in my life. And so it came to fruition. However, like you said, whenever you dedicate yourself to a major life change, there are lots of fears that come up. And so can you speak to the unproductive fear, and then can you speak to how fear can be a vehicle for change and be productive?
Interesting. So you're looking at two sides of fear, is what it sounds like to me.
Yes.
Okay, we know that fear could be a motivator. Fear is energy. What I teach in the law of attraction world is that we basically attract what we love, what we hate, and what we fear. Why? They are intense, fiery emotions. We can attract things that we fear or what we hate because we put all of our attention on it. We see this on Facebook all the time, especially with the political climate out there and different things that took place over the last couple of years. The people start expressing their fear and expressing their hate. What they don't know, because they're unconscious to this, is that they just get more of it. So the negative side of fear is when you focus on what you don't want to have happen, and what you are ironically doing is being sure that it's going to happen. What I instead want to do is use the fear to fortify myself and energize myself to go for my dreams. To continue with the music example I gave you, I never wanted to actually perform on stage as a singer songwriter because I thought, man, I don't have the experience to do it. I've been on stages around the world as a speaker, but being as a singer is a completely different experience. My own band shamed me into it. They said, you've recorded 15 albums, you need to go on stage, and they're ready to back me to do it. So I stated my intention, but fear was behind that for 2 months. Fear. And the fear drove me to not only perfect what I wanted to express as a singer songwriter, but also to learn everything I could about performance. And I remember taking a class with Usher. I didn't even know who he was at the time. He's this incredible, mega, legendary superstar musician. And one of the things he taught was you can do everything to prepare for this experience. You can rehearse, you can memorize, you can do visualization and everything else. But on the night of the performance, something's going to go wrong. He says, I can pretty much guarantee it. I don't know what's going to go wrong, but something's going to go wrong. Knowing that something will go wrong will help you because when it goes wrong, it won't derail you. It won't stop you. It won't cause you to collapse, where otherwise it might if you expect it all to go perfect. So fear was actually my friend. Fear was what caused me to go and educate myself, inspire myself, arm myself, train myself with all of these things. And I did so much more in those 2 months besides usher and rehearsal and everything else. But the positive side of fear is that it helped protect me. And I think that's how I would answer your question right now.
That's a great point. When people are able to confront their fear, what they will come to find is that the mind made it a lot bigger than it really is.
Mhm.
And as you said, it can aid you. So it's not so much conquering the fear, it's coming into alignment with it. Do you agree?
Yeah, I would make fear my friend because we're not talking about fears that are actually dangerous, which is what I try to point out to people. I'm not saying go dance in LA traffic on an 8-lane highway. I'm not saying something that is actually fearful. I am talking about doing something that's out of your comfort zone. And when you do it and it's out of your comfort zone, it will feel scary, but only because it's out of, look at the word, comfort. It's no longer comfortable. You've stepped outside of it. So that kind of fear is actually okay. That kind of fear is actually safe. That kind of fear can actually be your friend. And that kind of fear can fuel you to go and complete your dreams.
So, confronting and aligning with the fear, making it your friend, can actually empower you, is what you're saying. Interesting. Charles Horton, do you have a question? Oh, have to turn on your mic, my friend.
Unmute. Okay. Congratulations on your new music career. I'm going to be Googling later on in the day and finding you on YouTube and listening to it. But that's
Oh,
really
thanks.
exciting. I wanted to get you to cover just a bit more. You touched on it, but we have so much going on politically. If you're on social media, you're getting divides between friends. Friends are stop being friends with other people because of their political beliefs. I've kind of turned off the news. I've kind of turned off most of social media, and I've trained myself to just scroll on by when it's material that I don't want to listen to, so I don't give it any energy. What else would you suggest to people right now to not let that take over their heads?
I'd go on a news diet. I'd actually refrain from paying attention to the mainstream news. One of my biggest suggestions for the longest time, and we're talking about over 10 years, is I would say turn off the mainstream news. It is designed to program you and push your buttons to keep you in fear. It knows exactly what is going to activate the survival mechanism in your brain. And so all of the news is going to go out there and find the worst case scenarios and tell you how bad everything is. And if you've ever noticed, if there happens to be a day where there was nothing uncomfortable that took place that day, they'll say, 1 year ago in history, this took place. And if 1 year ago wasn't bad enough, they'll go, oh, it was 5 years ago in history that this disaster took place. It is all designed to play you like a puppet. I know, I was in journalism. That's what I studied at Kent State University, 72 to 76 in Ohio. So they taught us to play this game. I don't know that all the journalists are conscious of doing that today, but it is part of what they are programmed to do. It's called programming for a reason. They're programming us. So I say turn off the frickin' mainstream news. If for some reason people are really thinking, well, I have to know what's going on in the world. Well, first of all, if there's something happening in the world, you're going to end up knowing it. It's got to get through the grapevine and it'll be at your front door. Somebody will tell you at some point. But you can also go on what I mentioned was a news diet. Get the top headlines, find out what's going on, and turn the damn thing off. There's plenty of positive programming going on in the world. And that's really where I like what you began with your question and the different things you were selecting to do there, Charles, because that's where I think we all need to do. We should be selecting what is going into our head, selecting what goes into our soul. That is going to fortify us or destroy us. It can also unite us or it can divide us. There is so much success literature in the world. Go read it. There is so much success literature that is on audio. Go listen to it. There are so many wonderful movies, documentaries, films, educational stories that are going on in the world. Go watch them. There are actually positive people doing positive things, much like this group here. Hang around them. We need to use, with conscious awareness, our ability to choose. And what I'm talking about is everybody talks about what they eat and what they drink. What about what you're thinking and what's being fed into your brain and what's being fed into your soul? That's where we need to have as much, if not more, conscious discernment. So that was kind of a long answer to your question, but I basically say turn off the mainstream news or go on a news diet. Spend more time going for what you want to create in the world. Create something that'll actually make a difference, a positive difference in the world. One of the people I wrote a book on was P.T. Barnum, and where everybody thought he said there's a sucker born every minute. He never said that. He was an entrepreneur. He was a genius. He was a marketer, and he had a line that said, "We cannot all see alike, but we can all do good." Go do good.
Such great
Uh,
advice.
Thank you.
I agree. And I feel that's why we've all come together, is to help share the do-gooding around the world, to focus on self, turn inward, become empowered, and make positive change in our lives, which affects the lives of many, which then affects the lives of all. So there's a common theme with all of the speakers, which truly is empowerment, whether it's from self and self healing, or whether it's from industry in creating new employment opportunities. So, Dr. Joe Vitale, for the folks that have had the rug completely pulled out from under them in 2020, I've walked the journey, so I have a good understanding of how life can pull the rug out from under you when you don't know that you're ready for change yet you really are. How could you kind of describe the process of digging deep within to get in alignment with that fear, overcome that fear, and create change? Because change is not easy for a lot of people. What advice would you give to them?
I saw a video clip of Denzel Washington just today, and he was giving a talk, and he said, "Ease is the enemy of change. Ease is the enemy of change." That it was actually hardship that created or triggered the transformation in people.
That's
And
where
I
you stick with things.
and I've heard other people say that sitting at the comfort table of life is not going to allow you to stay there very long. Life is movement and life is change. We are going to experience change whether we are ready, think we're ready, or not. First person story for me, the last 2 years have been the worst of my entire life. And this is a guy who was homeless at one point. This is a guy who was in poverty for 10 years. This is a guy who knows what the dark night of the soul is. This is also a guy who has achieved a great level of success and notoriety and gets to travel the world, or at least used to before the pandemic, speaking on stages in countries I didn't even know existed, didn't know their names before. But the last 2 years, between a divorce that should have been easy and effortless and over quick, ended up being a persecution of my life and business, to the death of my father, to a family member attempting suicide, to the death of my best friend, to the pandemic essentially wiping out my biggest income, which came from speaking engagements and traveling, and parking me where it became a day by day struggle, even as I entered a new relationship with somebody who developed neuro Lyme disease, couldn't see, couldn't drive, basically couldn't think. And so during this whole thing I just described, I am also the caretaker for this person. So I'm looking at all of this going, all right, where did this come from? It comes from life. The Stoics, which have actually helped me through a lot of this, the Stoics from ancient Rome and ancient Greece, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and the gang, they all said, "We told you so." They went through a pandemic. Marcus Aurelius died in a pandemic during his time. We had a pandemic 100 and some years ago. The ups and downs of life are fairly predictable. We're going to have a prosperity streak. We've had them in the past. And after a certain time, that flow will go out to sea, will go through a struggle streak, then prosperity will come back. So, what we have to realize is our big lesson here is to learn to sit in our seat, tune within to our connection to the divine. You can call it God, nature, Gaia, whatever you want to call this, because that is what this is all about. In the beginning, people were saying, oh, there's a conspiracy going on and the virus is real or the virus isn't real. And of course, you have that clash and all the people trying to make sense of what's going on in the world as best they could understand it. And I finally made some videos and said, yep, there's a conspiracy. It's a divine conspiracy. The divine, which is my word for God, supernatural, whatever, the divine conspiracy is set up for us to finally get sent to our room. They kept saying, go inside. Go inside doesn't mean go in your room. It means go inside you. And when they said go inside and take care of your family and friends, they're talking about the subpersonalities within you. I took everything that's been happening to a metaphysical level, and I took all of it as a growth experience. I ended up realizing that, one day at a time, it's all fine. One day at a time, it's all fine. If we allow our monkey mind to race down the road going, yeah, but what about 3 months from now or 6 months from now? Or what about next year? Well, we'll just drive ourselves crazy. Nobody knows what's going to happen by the end of the day. or the end of this hour, let alone 6 months, 9 months, a year from now. So it's all a divine conspiracy to get us to awaken. And to awaken to what? Your favorite word, empowerment. We are more powerful when we align with the Great Spirit. My last singer-songwriter album was called The Great Something. And The Great Something was a nod to that force, the higher power that we don't even agree on what to call it. And I ended up calling it The Great Something. Joseph Campbell called it The Great Mystery. Others call it God. Some call it Gaia. Some call it the divine, nature. We are more empowered when we surrender to it and join forces with it. That's when we can create by God miracles. When we stay in the egoic, consciously driven, we can handle this Lone Ranger, John Wayne approach to life, we're going to suffer because that approach doesn't work.
Thank you so much. I can truly attest to that. I would say my epic journey into the self, making that epic journey from the head to the heart, started when I lost my twin flame, my soul, my spirit, in the physical. Yet there was something that kept me here, and I reached a point of surrender, true surrender, where I didn't think I could go on any longer. And there was a voice inside that said, "What were you born to do?" And I really had to think, what am I here to do? And it took a long time for that to happen. Not to freak anybody out, but I am very spiritual and very energetic. So the inner voice was a conversation with myself. And that's what Dr. Vitale is talking about. There is God, divine spirit, whatever you want to label that, it does exist. And when you're able to harmonize with that and allow that to carry you through the darkest moments you've ever been through in your life, a path will open up for you. And when that path opens up, if you hesitate, how will you know how far you can go? And that's the whole spirit of empowerment. Diving into that deep end, get into that subconscious mind. What's blocking you? What are the forces that are speaking within the mind saying, nah, you might not want to do that? And well, why not? So it's the why not part that you really have to filter through in the subconscious. And I'd like everybody to know that Dr. Vitale has got a program that's an amazing program. I've seen the previews of it, and I'm excited to jump into the deep end with him on this, because I've had a couple of years to really go through this process. And I can tell you, 6 continents around the world would not be connected today live in this presentation if I would have just said, I'm done, I'm checking out. So there's a lot that can be done in this world if you go inward and find your power from within. So we have a couple of minutes. Jessica, do you have a question for Dr. Vitale you'd like to ask?
Oh my goodness. I don't even know where to start on this one. What I actually have found amazing was how you started off with this whole conversation and topic, because Denise and I have had so many of these ourselves, was fear. And you mentioned about going within. Do you have a beginner that we could give to the listeners out there so that they can start going within, so they can start setting their intentions, or perhaps calming the fear, beginning to look inside, getting into that quiet spot, something perhaps simple and easy for maybe those first timers who may not have done this before, or even those who might have been doing it for a lifetime. Can you please kindly give us guidance on that?
Yeah. And I have 30 seconds now?
Oh no, take us your time, please.
I'm teasing you. I don't remember. What was the freebie I said everybody can have? Wasn't it Beginner's Guide to Miracles or Beginner's Guide to Ho'oponopono? There's a free course that everybody can have that I think would answer your question, Jessica. That's a great question, but it deserves a longer answer. And I have a couple courses. These are entirely free. If you go to vitalelifemastery.com, Vitale, my last name, lifemastery.com, you will enter a little gateway to a bunch of different things, some for sell, but some of them are free. And one of them is Beginner's Guide to Miracles. Another one is Beginner's Guide to Ho'oponopono. And Ho'oponopono is a Hawaiian healing technique. Some of you already know about it because of my early books. Zero Limits has been around the world telling people about Ho'oponopono. It's basically 4 phrases that can help dilute fear. The 4 phrases are: I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And it would take me 20, 30 minutes to explain all of the basics. But those courses are free. Beginner's Guide to Miracles, Beginner's Guide to Ho'oponopono, and there's probably some other beginner's guides there that I don't remember. But vitalelifemastery.com.
Thank you so much. I've put that out there on Facebook and all the media, and I'll make sure that it gets
Oh,
out there for you as well.
oh, well,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
That's very kind. Thank you very much. Well, thank you. I'm honored to have been invited to be here. What a great group and what great questions. I didn't know what I was going to be talking about or fielding here, and we just went into the deep end and started swimming.
That's the best way to do it. That's how we always roll here. It's like, yeah,
And
that's where you get to
also
the good stuff, you
and
know?
also notice what happened. We just trusted, which is one of the keys to success in life. We trusted ourselves, we trusted the process, we trusted each other, we trusted the great something, and it all unfolded beautifully. And this is only the beginning. The rest of you got the entire day of some juicy stuff and great speakers coming. I'm jealous. I got to go do some other stuff.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Vitale. It's been an honor and a pleasure. And we hope you can join us again at another broadcast. We do them once a quarter. Thank you so much,
Anytime, I'd be
sir.
flattered. Godspeed to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nahan taham.